Times are tough. It's getting increasingly expensive to run cars these days. So today I'm going to talk to you about 10 cars that cost less than £10,000 that have insane fuel economy and pretty good performance as well. If you want to see this same video again at under £5,000 instead, hit the like button, 1,000 likes and I'll make that video. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. We're kicking this video off with the Vauxhall Astra GTC VXR, the second generation Astra VXR based on the J generation. GTC specifically points to the fact that it's the 3-door as opposed to the standard 5-door, which it bears very little resemblance to, and the VXR, or OPC if you're in Europe, is the hot hatch version of this car, which tried to cement in place the VXR formula for future Vauxhalls. Sadly, gearboxes and clutches weren't known to be super reliable, but outside of that, one of its main problems was that it just didn't seem to break the market in the same way as the first VXR. Regardless, it comes with a 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 engine, making 276 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.8 seconds, pretty decent. And it's the cheapest car on the list too, starting at £5,500, while 10k gets you a 2013 model with 60,000 miles on the clock and manages 36 miles per gallon, which is not bad for a hot hatch. I actually think it's a great looking car with the muscly lines and wider wheel arches, large alloys and all the rest, but it's the performance that's really cool thanks to the active suspension and mechanical LSD. I recently reviewed the Mark 7.5 VW Golf R and I really enjoyed driving it. I couldn't quite put it on hyper hatch levels, but for the price you probably could consider it in that kind of region. The Mark 7 in particular starts at around the 10k mark, so only just making our list, and for that kind of money you're getting a 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 engine which puts out 295 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.9 seconds, making it the second fastest car on the list, which makes it even better that it will do around 39 miles per gallon. This car has exceptional road holding. It feels planted and gives you bags of confidence to throw it around. It's almost too planted. Because it's all-wheel drive, it feels a little bit less hot hatchy and a bit more like a sports car. When I drove it, I likened it to a hatchback version of the Audi TTS basically. If you know VW Group cars, you'll know the feel of it though. It's familiar with an uprated but still typically VW interior, and I personally reckon it's the perfect daily driver for anyone who's already had some nice cars and wants something quick but anonymous to bash around in, especially as outside of ones that have been poorly looked after, they've generally been pretty good on reliability. We're going from one of the most common brands you'll find on the roads here in the UK to one of the least common with the 4th generation Infiniti M, an executive car from Nissan's more premium brand. That's why it shares parts with cars like the Nissan 370Z, but more interestingly, it was designed with a super classic design principle known as Coke bottle styling, named after the Coca-Cola bottles of the 1960s, which inspired a lot of classic cars of the same era. It comes with a 3.5-litre V6 engine combined with electric power to produce 358 brake horsepower, the most on this list, which will take it to 60 in 5.3 seconds, which is decent for a car that isn't even the range-topping model. Most importantly for this video though, it'll do around 40 miles per gallon. In reviews, this car has generally appeared up there amongst the best hybrid cars of its era, alongside the Panamera S Hybrid, which is pretty cool considering how much cheaper it is. The thing to be aware of is that some owners have had battery-related issues, but parts shouldn't be impossible to get given you can mostly get these serviced at Nissan service centres. They'll run you around 6k at the bottom end, and 10k will get you into a 2012 example with around 60k on it. In 7th on the list we have the 3rd generation Audi S3, which is a surprisingly high fuel economy for a performance hatchback, given it's supposed to do around 40 miles per gallon. That's thanks to its 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 engine, which makes 295 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5 seconds, helped of course by it being all-wheel drive. It comes as both the standard 3-door hatchback and the 5-door sportback, both are the same size, just the 5-door somehow looks more like a baby S4 than the 3-door does. It actually also comes as a saloon and convertible too, though those are slightly out of our price range, and of the bunch I personally would be after either the 3-door hatch or the saloon, simply based on looks. Outside of that, the formula is pretty similar to what you get in other S model Audis, the nicer interior, the slight aesthetic modifications, and the very decent performance. It's basically a direct competitor to the Golf R we just spoke about, with similar reliability figures too. These are listed anywhere from around the 9k mark, and for 10k we'll be looking at a high mileage 2014 model. Just missing out on the top 5 we have another hot hatch which also comes as a hot estate, the Seat Leon Cupra 280, which briefly held the lap record at the Nürburgring for front-wheel drive cars with a time of 7 minutes 58 seconds, so it can definitely shift. Despite that, it will still manage 42 miles per gallon, which makes it the best MPG to performance hot hatch I could actually find within our price range. Even in long-term reviews with track use, B-road bashing, city driving and motorway use, I've seen it manage an average of around 33 miles per gallon, so pretty decent still for real-world applications. It comes with a 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 engine, which makes 276 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.7 seconds, which doesn't sound too fast, but clearly it's enough to be very competent on track. I'm a big fan of these sharp lines both outside and in, and the engine revs nicely. Around 71% of buyers went for DSGs, so manuals are a bit rarer, but I personally would go for a manual to maximise that hot hatch feel. These start at around the 9k mark, and for 10k we'll be looking at a 2015 model with around 70,000 miles on the clock. Thermostat and water pumps are common points of failure on these, but generally they're pretty reliable. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video. If you are and you're new here, do hit the subscribe button for 2 videos every single week, and everyone make sure you've hit the like button as well, it really helps the channel out. But let me know in the comments down below if you know, what is the miles per gallon of your car since you've owned it? Both my Polo and MX-5 will be embarrassingly low because of how I drive, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. On to the top 5 now, and in 5th we have one of my personal favourite looking modern Peugeots, the RCZ R, which comes with not just properly sporty external looks, on the inside it's pretty aggressive too, with angular seats and a focused driving position. Some say maybe too focused, as it's apparently quite difficult to reach the dashboard functions at times. Either way though, it comes with a 1.6 litre turbocharged inline-4 engine, which makes 266 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.7 seconds, matching the Seat, but with slightly better fuel economy, managing 44 miles per gallon. This car for me is effectively a hot hatch with a sports car's body, with parts like the Torsen front diff off of the Mark II Focus RS to help those front wheels provide consistent power when cornering. The choice to keep it front-wheel drive is interesting. This would have been lovely as a rear or all-wheel drive performance car, but of course it takes its platform from the 308, which is typically a front-wheel drive base. I wouldn't worry though, as it's Peugeot Sport's first proper road car, the formula does work, and reliability-wise have not been terrible either. To get into one, you need to spend around 9k at the bottom end, and 10k will get you into a 2014 model with 60,000 miles on it. Taking 4th on the list is a highly underrated executive car from Lexus, the GS 458, which was built to be luxurious, practical, economical, and surprisingly fast. That performance comes from its 3.5 litre V6 engine, combined with electric power to produce 340 brake horsepower, taking the car to 60 in 5.7 seconds, a touch slower than the similarly powered Infiniti M we spoke about before. But that loss in performance is a gain in miles per gallon, as it will theoretically do 46 MPG. This 4th generation example made the whole formula a little more angular than the previous gen, which had a smoother L finesse design language, but on the interior it remained pretty no nonsense, focused on luxury whilst also adding in some environmentally friendly features like the optional use of bamboo for much of the trim. In terms of luxuries though, you'll be hard pressed to find any cars that offer the same level of comfort and technology for this kind of price range, alongside the reliability too, given the main issue stemmed from the battery, with the engine being pretty solid all in. You'll find this listed anywhere for around £6,000, and 10k is enough for a high mileage 2014 model. In 3rd place on this list we have simply the best bang for buck when it comes to performance and fuel economy that I can give you on this list, the BMW 435D. It's the closest thing you can get to a diesel M4, especially if you give it a remap. You can actually get better straight line performance out of it than its M4 equivalent. That's partly thanks to its 3 litre twin turbocharged inline-6 engine, which makes 308 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.5 seconds, but a remap will get you to 400 brake horsepower and a 0 to 60 of 3.9 seconds, pretty sick. Forget that though, as standard it's supposed to do 50 miles per gallon, which makes running this a lot cheaper than an M4. It helps too that if you go for one in M Sport spec, you can clad it in M Performance parts, which are typically carbon fibre, many of which do add quite a nice aggressive but OEM look to the car to help it look somewhat near as nice as the M4, and the interior trim is a bit more aggressive and akin to the M4 as well. These start at around £9,000, and 10k gets you a 2015 model with high mileage. The EGR valve and cooler plus the steering rack offer the main issues with these. Taking 2nd on the list is also one of the most modern cars I have for you today, the Mercedes C350E, which is a highly fuel efficient hybrid that offers you the same executive and luxury features of any standard C-Class saloon. It's powered by a 2 litre turbocharged inline-4 engine, combining with electric power to give you 288 brake horsepower and 0 to 60 of 5.7 seconds. Not bad, but even better, it will manage around 56.5 miles per gallon, making it pretty cheap to run. This is a plug-in hybrid with a mixture of petrol and electric power, before the swap in 2018 to diesel. It's already a super torquey car as it gets out 600 Nm, and it comes with pretty good Mercedes Mercedes technology in terms of driver aids and the likes. But one thing that lets it down for me is interior quality. It does look very nice in there, but the materials can sometimes feel a bit cheap and not particularly hard wearing. This may have partly been to keep weight down for efficiency, but it's no S-Class, that's for sure, and some owners have also had issues with the non-engine electrics. These are listed anywhere from around the £8,500 mark, and 10k gets you into a 2016 model with 90,000 miles on the clock. Taking the top spot on this list is the Volvo V60 D6, thanks to its exceptional fuel economy, considering it will manage around 59.5 miles per gallon, which is pretty unreal. The V60 is a great looking car too, given it has some of Volvo's updated design language, and in the right spec, I'd even say it can look pretty mean. It is, however, our slowest car to 60, managing it in 5.9 seconds, not bad but not perfect, and that's thanks to its 2.5 litre twin-turbo inline-5 hybrid, which makes 281 brake horsepower, pretty low output considering that powertrain. That does mean, however, it's pretty understressed, though uncommonly batteries can be a source of issues. I would look to get one in our design spec to make the most of Volvo's minimalistic but effective sporty aesthetics. It's no Polestar, but it's as close as you'll get within our price range. Add on the practicality of getting yourself an estate versus the other cars on this list, and you're onto a winner. To get into one of these, you need to spend around £8,500 at the bottom end, and 10k gets you into a 2014 model with 90k on it. So there you have it, 10 cars, all pretty good fuel economy and great performance. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks to the patrons for their support, and click here to see another really cool video on some hot hatchback.